Why would you apply for unemployment benefits when you had a job making $120,000 a year?
Rachel, this is part of my defense. This is inaccurate information, and I will get to clear my name.
Are you planning on running for re-election?
Yes, I am. I will prove myself innocent, and then we'll move from there. And re-election is a very far time away.
That was our Rachel Scott questioning George Santos after his arrest this week. The congressman is as defiant as ever in pledging and pleading not guilty to 13 charges, including wire fraud, money laundering, stealing public funds, and lying to Congress. The roundtable is back. So you're a Congressman Torres. You are a fellow congressman from New York. Is Santos going to make it through this? Is he going to be expelled? What's going to happen?
He should be expelled. As a politician, he's done more law-breaking than law-making, and he should be in prison rather than Congress. But for me, George Santos is not only a scandal unto himself, he's a symptom of a diseased Republican Party that has become a cesspool of conspiracy theorists like Marjorie Taylor Greene and clowns like Lauren Boebert and charlatans like Donald Trump and crooks like George Santos. And the Republicans who refuse to expel him are enabling him.
Governor Christie?
Well, I don't know that I agree with all of that, but what I would say is that George Santos doesn't belong in Congress. I mean, he didn't belong in there in the first place. And then when you find out all the lies, all the rest that he's done, and the shifty maneuvers and illegal conduct as alleged by the indictment, look, I'm not ready to say he needs to go to jail because I think everybody's
got a right to defend himself
until proven guilty. And having done this for 7 years, the government needs to go and prove their case.
Yeah.
But that's different than whether or not he should be sitting as a representative in Congress.
So there should be a vote to expel him?
Look, I would certainly expel him. If I remember Congress, I would vote that way. You know, probably leadership is going to have to decide how they want to do that, and politics is going to get involved in this, John, with as narrow a margin as they have. They'll probably let the process play out. So I think you can divide the two of them. I don't know if he's a criminal, but he's certainly a liar. And if he turns out to be a criminal, then he belongs going to jail.
He pled guilty to that. Yes,
he just pleaded guilty in a country named after my family, Brazil. Okay? He pleaded guilty.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you know, you should check us out sometime. But look, he pleaded guilty. He's lied about his mother. He's lied about his wealth. He's lied about his job, his college. I mean, the list goes on. I mean,
look,
yeah,
Donna,
who lies about volleyball, Chris?
Donna, I'm not defending George Santos. All I'm saying is that our Constitution applies to everybody. So he doesn't belong in Congress. I've been clear about that. But we also need to let the process play out. Let him have his opportunity to defend himself. Even he got it wrong on the tape. I was kidding with the congressman. He said, I'll prove myself innocent. No, George.
That's right.
You're presumed innocent. The government has to prove you guilty. If they prove him guilty, he belongs to go into jail.
You pretend to be a lawyer, #1 graduate from Harvard. You never know what's going to happen. I said it once, and I'll say it again. He's a stain on the United States Congress, and he should be expelled. But since that will not happen, I do believe the law will have to take its course. And once again, he'll continue to lie. He's taking the worst chapter from the former disgraced president of the United States and calling this a witch hunt. No, these are serious charges that he's been accused of.
Governor Hogan, he also voted 15 times for Kevin McCarthy to be Speaker. And on that 15th time, he was the deciding vote, as anybody who voted for him was. It was a one-vote margin.
Well, that's probably not a crime.
but I mean, I mean, McCarthy has to think twice before. I mean, he hasn't called on him to resign. He has said he wouldn't endorse him for re-election. He has taken him off his committees.
Right. Well, I mean, there's no question this is the guy's a clown, and he's obviously, you know, got all these criminal potential charges out there. I agree with Governor Christie. He's got a right to prove himself in a court of law, and they've got to prove him guilty. But if I were in Congress, I would say we got to get this guy out of here. He shouldn't be in Congress. And but, you know, somebody's going to replace him in that district, even if they did remove him. So Kevin McCarthy would likely still have that vote. It's not going to impact that.
Do you? Well,
I disagree with that.
It would probably be a Democrat that would replace him at this point.
Clearly, the decision to protect George Santos is driven not by principle, but by politics. Right? Kevin McCarthy needs every vote that he can get, and he needs George Santos. George Santos was the decisive vote on the Republican bill to default on America. And what I find hypocritical is the Republicans ran on a platform.
They would call that the bill where they raised the debt ceiling.
But I find it hypocritical that Republicans ran on a platform of draining the swamp yet are insisting on protecting George Santos.
Well, let's remember that the only party who has already passed a bill saying they would raise the debt ceiling is the Republican Party. The Democrats in the Senate could do the very same thing. Chuck Schumer has not done it. He's refused to do it. And Joe Biden has, is off in Rehoboth, Delaware this weekend. I mean, he should be at the White House negotiating with Kevin McCarthy and Republicans to get a raise to the debt ceiling. Instead, for I don't know how many times now he's been to Delaware. He seems like he spent more time in Delaware than in Washington.
Let's be honest. Delaware is a beautiful state. It's a beautiful state.
I went to college there. I love it.
Donna, almost out of time. Last thought.
The staff, they're negotiating.
Where's Joe?
He was at Howard University yesterday. Joe? They're negotiating, and I do believe America will pay its bill. We will not default.
Where's Joe?
But it's not a normal negotiation. It's an extortion.
All right, we are out of time. Thanks again to the roundtable. We'll be right back.